biggest thing is like, where are we, what are you neglecting the most? Right. So that's usually where the efficiency really lies, is like
Right.
the things that we're neglecting are generally the things that we're the weakest at and the things that we're like less drawn to. And that's generally where we should start spending a little bit of time. I've joked in the past of I wouldn't have a practice doing what I do if all of my CrossFitters did yoga, 2 months out of the year, and if all of my yogis did CrossFit 2 months out of the year,
Yeah.
where it's like you see these like archetypes of people, like people that are drawn to CrossFit. Many of them are like already naturally have a lot of like type 2, like high power muscle fibers. They're strong, they're stable, they're, they're able to move big weights. And we get good, like positive reinforcement from those things when we do that, which is great and like really important. Like we should all try to figure out what we're good at and like lean into those things. Then same with yogis, like the individuals in yoga class that are the best, like they probably already have hypermobility. They maybe have had hypermobility their whole life, which is why they're in this like crazy back bend position. But really, probably what they should focus on is creating stability to that system.
Yeah.
My yogis that come in complaining of tight hamstrings, as soon as I get them to stabilize their trunk and their legs shoots all the way up like to 140 degrees, it's like, all right, let's both agree that you don't have tight hamstrings. What you have is your hamstring holding on for dear life to try to create stability to the system. So
Right.
you're lacking stability, you're not lacking mobility. Whereas like somebody else is like that's like a CrossFitter whose back hurts all the time. They're like, I do all these core exercise after core exercise after core exercise after core, but they can't, sit cross-legged on the ground or something.
Right.
And you're like, all right, we probably need to open up the hips a little bit to take the strain off of the back. What you need is mobility, not stability. And they're like, well, I hate stretching. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I get that, but like that's what I'm saying. Is like what you need to look at is these pieces of like um, and you can extrapolate that out to like metabolic systems and all that sort of stuff. Like many sprinters hate going for walks. They'd rather go for a sprint and then just sit down, go for a
Right.
sprint and then sit down. But really metabolically, like, you can look at the way that they're functioning in those lower levels and maybe they're not as efficient. So in
There's so much
general,
there
like,
for like business too. Like it's crazy all these crossovers and really what I love when we have these conversations, like obviously you're looking at some very, very intense, like almost through a microscope of like how somebody's being efficient, like pulling that back to business. And I honestly, same thing. I wish I could tell you where I heard this, but somebody, I'm sure it was on some Instagram thing. It was like the results that you're looking for lie in the work that you're avoiding.